Hi, this is Henk, and welcome to another edition of the Skull Sessions. And today my guest is J.M. Shaw. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, so let's talk about what you have.
So I've written and published the first four books in my Callum Walker series. It's a dark magic fantasy, action adventure, some supernatural suspense, kind of all sprinkled in for good measure. A few swear words here and there, all the adventure you'd expect, some hints of romance. I don't write spice. There's other people that do. I don't.
What, you don't have like tons of like graphic sex scenes, something like that?
It's just not my jam. I mean, I've read books with it in it, and I mean that's fine as long as there's a good storyline. I'm old school. I grew up with like Lord of the Rings, where it was all about the fantasy at that time was like all about the adventures. And so that's kind of where I'm at in my
No, I
inspiration.
like it better when there's like a strong story behind it. Like I don't care how far out on the edge you go, as long as there's like a strong story behind it. But there seem to be
Yeah.
some people right now that like they just want to grab you by putting the most, the most extreme thing possible on the screen or in the novel or the comic book or whatever to like just grab you, and you're like, yeah, but I need the build up.
Yeah, well, you need something else happening in the background. You need to get it, you need to connect with the characters. It's got to make sense. You can't be like saying meet hi at the grocery store and just start making out in the aisle. You have to have some reason for it. So it's kind of have to build that relationship as well, right?
I mean, I guess you could make out now if you explain it later, but it's like when
Yeah.
just random stuff happens and like there's never any explanation, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, there's a whole audience of people who love that stuff, and that's great. I mean, if we were all into the same thing, life would be very boring, and we wouldn't have bookstores. We would just have a book,
Right,
and we'd all like the same thing.
right. I just this might be me personally, but I love the build up. Like I
Mhm.
don't know if you read like Lucifer's Hammer. It's like this giant asteroid slams to the Earth and like basically all society goes to shit. But it's
Yeah,
like they spend like 100 pages building up everybody,
yeah,
and then it happens. So then you're like, then you really feel it. 'Cause you're like, I see the impact on all these people that I've learned to appreciate.
yeah. And I mean, I like I said, I've read some books too where they're considered spicy, but they have a really good storyline, and there's a lot of stuff happening to kind of build towards that moment. But there's also things going on in the background, and then you get time to develop the characters' relationships, and you get to fall in love with the characters yourself as a reader. So, I mean, it's just that I'm more about the adventures and the world building, and I like character development, but yeah, spices it's low on spice. It's like a young adult and up series.
Okay. Is it so I've seen a couple different like young adult oriented stuff. I don't know if you're saying your stuff is like primarily oriented towards a young adult market or if it's just like it has that level of extremity in it.
So, usually they gauge the age of your audience by the age of your protagonist or the main character. So, my protagonist is a young man in his early 20s. So, it's sort of a crossover between a young adult, which is a teenager, I think it's like 12 or 13 and up, and a new adult, which is a new audience category, which is like men and women in their early 20s.
I've seen like I was talking to Jeff Stern about this. So what what I like and dislike about the young adult is I like it when it's like a young adult, so it's like from the young adult perspective. What I dislike is when they like talk down to you because they go, "Oh, the readership is young adult, so we're gonna like
Yeah.
cut all the sharp edges off and simplify everything," and then like you feel it.
Yeah. No, the reason I say young adults and up is because it has no sex in my books. So it's appropriate for young adults as well. The vast majority of my audience are men and women my age.
Okay, so what is this story roughly? Like, what's the arc?
So the series arc is that there's our world, our time, coexisting magical realm, but there's a veil that separates us. We can't see or cross this veil because we don't have magic. But these creatures that do can and have, and they've been the source of inspiration for our fairy tales and monster stories. And then my protagonist, Callum Walker, I mentioned before, he's a young man born with the ability to use magic, doesn't know why, is trying to make the most of it. Because of that, he's able to cross that veil, becomes embroiled in this magical realm, learning about this world and all the beings therein. And we follow adventures ensue, and we follow him through the series as he's trying to figure out who he is, where he belongs, because he's too magic for here, but too human for there, and master these abilities to survive.
Is it kind of like Chronicles of Narnia, where like you have to go to somewhere else to see something different, or does it come over on this plane?
It coexists with us, so it's their same Earth, same planet. It's just they're hidden. We can't see them. It's this veil enchants us, so we basically like an NPC in a character in a game that's stuck on a bucket. You know, they're just walking forever, and eventually they give up and they maybe move off in a different direction and
But
stuff. So
these supernatural elements that they like affect and influence the real world, people just can't see what's behind them, but he can.
yes, they can see us and they've seen us um, evolve as our cultures and our religions and our traditions, and they understand a lot of things as much as you can by just observing. I mean, they're not immersed in it, but they see us seen us grow as humanity. And they've crossed a few times and interacted, and like that's why I say those interactions have been the inspiration for some of our fables and mythologies and such.
Okay, does it take place in the present or is it in the past or the future? Like, there's some people that kind of do it kind of in the present or the past, but in an alternate world. So how are you approaching it?
So on our side of the veil, it is our current day and age. Because the magical realm, they don't need technology. It's a very human thing. They are more medieval, live off the land, in touch with nature kind of thing.
So it's kind of like they're living in the present day, but that's their mentality.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And you're saying it's a series? Like how many books do you have out?
So I've published my fourth book last summer. I'm working on my fifth. I've plotted for my sixth. I'm aiming for nine. If I have to write another book, I won't be upset about that.
But you're saying nine would be like the arc of the story that you have planned?
Yeah, I've kind of aiming for that. As I'm getting into the fifth book and I'm writing on the fifth book, I'm seeing that I'm closer to the end than I was with, say, the third book. So it's getting closer.
Okay. And what's gonna be the accomplishment over the arc?
So without giving much away, it's sort of a coming of age, and Callum is very much a fish out of water, unlikely hero. So it's a hero's journey, but he's also changing, and we're watching him grow up basically and change and discover who he is and his potential, and follow him along this journey to discover how he is connected to the realm.
Does he realize that like he can see the Roman that's not a common thing? Like how does he view himself in relation to the other people around him?
So he was raised like he's a human, obviously. So he's raised around humanity, and he's thinking that he's different than everybody else because he has these magical abilities, and he doesn't know why, and that's why he's trying to make the most of it. Just to try to figure out, well, is this why I have these powers and stuff? But he's for the most part hiding that part of himself from all the other people that are around him. When he crosses the veil, he doesn't have to hide his magical abilities, but he's very obviously a human in a magical realm, so he's kind of looked down on, and there's this prejudgment because humanity is seen as a juvenile society of beings, and we're not nearly as advanced as them. We don't have magic, so we're lesser than. There's a pretty
Even
big
though you're
prejudice.
saying they're
So
like more medieval in the way they approach stuff, like
yeah.
we're more technologically advanced, but it's like I guess we have blinders on so we don't see the supernatural world. Is that kind of like why they think we're like primitive?
Well, they think we're primitive because we're separated from them, because this veil was established by the ancient deities. And so humanity was separated from the realm, but humans don't have magic for the most part. I mean, they're odd one here and there throughout history, But if they don't have magic and they're separated from the realm, then they're not like us and stuff. So human Callum, as a human with magic, able to cross that veil, he's still a human, and they only see him as being a human. And so he stands out to them. They still have this underlying prejudice against him.
Okay. So they don't look at him as like something special, like better than like the normal humans to have they can't see them, or like how do they view him?
So, when he's established himself and he helps out the realm and he goes through these adventures and he's building a reputation for himself, they still see him as a human, but they don't see him as an individual. They see him more as his accomplishments, and he is a human with with magic, and
Kind of the
so that's his
useful
claim to
village
fame.
idiot sort of
Yeah,
thing.
they see more of what he can do rather than what he what he is. Although he is still a human, so there's still that prejudice that exists, and wherever he goes, there's going to be that. Also, too, humans aren't as strong as a lot of the beings in the realm. So when he's over there, he's not a weakling, but he's not as physically strong as all of the other beings there.
So do any of the humans like believe him or recognize what he can do?
Not the humans, but the magical beings do. They can sense that he has power because they have magical energy, and a lot of them are in tune with magical energy, so they can sense that he has it. So they recognize that, okay, he's a human, yes, but he has magic, yes, but we don't, and word spreads there just like it would here, gossip and oh, this human with magic did this amazing great thing, and then when they do finally meet him, they're like, oh, you're the human with magic, but you're not as tall as I thought you would be, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any point where the like humanity kind of like respects that he's different or anything, or like the whole time he's just kind of the outcast?
He sort of feels like the outcast on both sides. So in humanity, he has to hide part of, like he has to hide his
What he
magical
is, yeah.
abilities. Yeah. And that's in order to fit in. And then when he goes into the realm, he doesn't have to hide the magic, like his magical abilities, but he doesn't fit in because he's not a realm born, so to speak. He's not an elf, fairy, dwarf, centaur, whatever there is. He's human. And so he doesn't feel like he belongs on either side, but he's also part of both worlds, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. You know what it kind of reminds it's not the same at all, but it kind of reminds me, have you read the story I think it's called Ghost Stories by Neil Gaiman?
Mm-hmm.
Or a graveyard book rather, like about a kid that was raised in a graveyard. So it's like he has two worlds. He has the world of like the ghosts in the graveyard and the human world. And he's like trying to like reconcile the two.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had a reader point out to me as well that I'm kind of almost writing my own arc as neurodivergent, trying to fit into society where I don't feel like I belong anywhere, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I belong? I feel like I always have to hide who I am in certain situations or pretend to be something, like masking who I really am because in order to blend in, kind of thing. So I
What
did have a reader
the
point that
saying
out.
that's kind of like the premise of what you're doing, or the saying that's you, but it's like in a fictional form.
The no the whole arc, the long journey, it's my journey in life, and I didn't realize that. I mean, I'm not my protagonist is not, I mean, every character I write has aspects of me, I suppose, because you just can't get that in depth into a character without putting parts of you in them.
Well, you're
But
saying you
my
don't see magical creatures.
no, I loved, you know what? I grew up with the old school fairy tales, and I always loved them. I had an old hardbound book for that smelled like, dusty pages. It was like the complete collection of the Grimm's brothers fairy tales.
Okay.
And I grew up with all of those, and I love those ideas. And I also grew up with the Arthurian Merlin tales, and that was kind of the inspiration initially for my protagonist. Was like, what would it be like if a young Merlin was living in our day and age, and before he became master magician and stuff? What would it be like from growing up? It would have been awkward, like no teacher, nobody else has powers. What would I do with these and stuff? And then my characters just sort of took on a life of their own and evolved.
Okay, roughly how long would you is it how many books you have out now? You have four?
Mhm.
So how long are they and what do you have planned?
So my books are roughly 400 to 500 pages each, paperback, and I'm planning for nine, might be 10. It depends. I am getting closer to the end as I'm working on my fifth book.
Okay. And the whole thing is there like an enemy or anything like is there a resolution or it's mainly about this person that's like kind of coming of age?
No, I know where the series is going to end, and it ends at the end of his journey, when he receives the answers to the questions that he's not necessarily ready yet to ask, but it will end. I can see what the ending is going to be. I know where it's going to end. I don't want to give
Okay.
too much away, and I'm struggling. I'm like,
No,
if I
yeah,
say this, it's going to give it away.
yeah, you don't have to get spoilers. Like
Yeah,
some people are more like what are called pantsers. They just kind of like go with the flow. And then some
yeah.
people they kind of like plan it out ahead of time. How do you approach it?
So I used to be very much a pantser. I knew where to start, where to end, somewhere in the middle to shift it towards the ending. But as I've gotten deeper into my series, I've become sort of a hybrid plotter. I
Okay.
still like those moments where I'm just like, okay, so I have this program where I can just input, this is the main theme that I want to show in this chapter. And so if I, as long as I meet that, everything else can be filler. So that's kind of what I do. I guess that's sort of halfway in between pantser and plotter.
So the filler would be the more pantser, but the agenda you're going for, you planned out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you doing it in third person, first person? Is there a mix?
Yeah. I'm doing third person omnipotent, but I do write in present tense, not past tense.
Okay.
So it's more immediacy, like as in like he says, she says, those kind of things instead of the said.
Okay. And how do you advertise? Do you have a website? Do you have like a social link to it? Something that people can check it out?
Yeah, my website is the best place to start. It's jmshawauthor.com. You can see my books, you can read about them. There's links to find them online. They're available as a print on Amazon. They're all on Kindle. First two are in Kobo, the rest will be eventually, or Barnes and Noble Press if you're in the US. I've also got on the bottom of my website links to my Facebook and Instagram and a Goodreads link so you can see what other people are saying about my books.
Awesome. Yeah, I like to tell people I find bookstores everywhere,
Yeah, my books are not in every bookstore yet.
but they're probably available for order from everywhere.
Through Amazon, so that's why I got the links on my website. Yeah. My books, if you're in Alberta, I think there's about 10 different Indigo chapter stores that my books are consigned in. So I'm
Okay.
hoping to get my books into more, but it hasn't happened. Like it's a slow process, as you know. It's not overnight success, and anybody
It's
who's
not.
hoping for that is in the wrong profession.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's also things have changed over time. So, like the days when Stephen King broke out, there weren't that many people. So there's like, it caught people's attention when you promoted it. Now it feels like it's a very diverse field. So it's like you have to like pick between things. There's so much out there.
Yes. And I mean, everybody has unique interests, things that they don't like. I've met people that they didn't want to, they said, oh, your stories sound really good, but I only read things that are in first person point of view. So,
Right, right.
which is fine. It's a preference thing. So, to each their own, right?
Yeah, I feel like people were like less isolated back in the day. They're more like, is it a good story? But
Yeah.
neither here nor there. I don't want to sound like the grumpy old guy. But all right, so the best way to see you is to go on your website.
Hmm.
But they could also order it off Amazon.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Amazon, Kindle, Kobo, Barnes and Noble Press.
Okay, and what they ask people is, I'm like, I don't want you to say compare like as in like it's exactly like this, but like if you like this, you'll like my stuff. So if you had to say, hey, if you're into this, check out my stuff, what would you say?
Um, my cover designer has compared my books to Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight series, and I'm like flattered. I love Brandon Sanderson. I love the epic adventures of like the Lord of the Rings. I love the funny sides that they weave into like the Supernatural TV series. But if you're thinking this is going to be like a Harry Potter, it's definitely much older and darker than that.
But is it as dark as like say Game of Thrones?
Um, Not quite, but I do have those political aspects that I try to weave in there.
Yeah, I thought that was the best series until that last season. Until
Yeah.
last season where they kind of like what nuke the fridge or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
I felt it was amazing. But
Yeah, we were all traumatized at the red wedding and then disappointed at the last.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like they spent like all the episodes building up the wall, and then like one episode is done.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
spent all the seasons building up, and then yeah, one episode. You're like, really? I
Yeah.
I know there was like a giant petition to reshoot the last season, and like George R. Martin is like, I would not have done it like that, but neither here nor there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I always like to read the books. At least if I'm going to watch the shows and the movies, I like to read the books first. Like, I just read the Project Hail Mary book in 3 days before I saw the movie, and I'm glad I did because it's there's a lot of things that they can put into the books that they can't necessarily put into the movies. So,
Yeah, I like sometimes I'll do the thing where like you on YouTube and you're like, well, it's this way in the books, it's this way in the
yeah.
movie. You
Yes.
can see what they altered. And it always seems like it's better in the books. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the special effects are definitely better, and they're all up here, and you don't have to pay for them. So,
well, exactly. And then like even if it's as much as CGI has like advanced, it still doesn't quite capture. And plus you have the
yes.
author, and so the author has like a better perspective than like
Yeah.
some like film guy in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how many, from what I've heard, is the authors don't have as much input into the video or filmmaking aspects of their books.
Yeah, I've heard. I think that's gotten a little bit better over time, but I know there's a lot of people that have complaints. Like
Mhm.
Frank Miller, I love his stuff that he did on like Dark Knight and Ronin and all that stuff. And so they
Yeah.
brought him to Hollywood and they asked him to write RoboCop 2. He's like, "Oh, well, I love the first RoboCop." So he wrote it. They're like, "Okay, it's a good script, but you don't know Hollywood." So then
Yeah.
they brought somebody else in, rewrote it. It was garbage. Everyone said it was garbage. So they went back to him. They're like, all right, can you rewrite it but take this guy's notes into consideration? He's like, no, fuck you. So, like,
Yeah.
if you look at RoboCop 2, there's like three writers. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, I know. It's there's some books that I've read where the books are amazing. It's great. And then you watch the movie and you're like, "Wait a minute. That character wasn't even in the book." And that person didn't, they didn't kick that person off and they didn't kick off until like the fifth novel and this is supposed to be the first book, so.
Or like I'll just throw out one more because I don't want to be all about other people, not you. But like I really like Robert Matheson wrote like I Am Legend, Hell
Mhm.
House, and Star of Echoes, and all that stuff. It's like they just can't seem to capture his magic.
Mhm.
Like if you read the books, you're like that was a really well written book. But then you watch
Yeah.
the movie, and you're like,
Yeah.
eh.
Yeah, yeah. For sure.
Do you have any plans for like Hollywood to pick your stuff up, or like is anybody getting a hold of you?
I haven't been contacted yet, but I'm not opposed to it. I would love to see my books made into either television or film. Um, I had somebody ask me if I'd ever consider like comic books and or graphic novel, and I was like, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I guess it's not that much different writing a script, so writing versus writing a narrative for if I'm going to do one for TV or a video. Um, I don't, I'd want to have a little more control, but I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Well, I know as far as graphic novel thing, like originally I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. So like when I put out books, I put out like illustrated books. And I've had people like ask me about like, yeah, I want to translate this into a graphic novel. It's like, but you have to basically pay the artist up front.
Yeah.
You have lots of people that are like, yeah, when I make money, you'll make money. And
Hmm.
no illustrator likes that. They're like, dude, I have to pay my rent.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Same thing. Well, same thing with editing too, right? Like you have an editor and you pay them to edit your book and it's a large, it's like a larger upfront cost. Um, but I mean, hopefully you never have to edit again and your book is out there, for however many decades that you want to continue to have it out there.
Yeah,
So
I've never had an
hopefully they
editor
give
that
back.
you pay them off of like off sales. Like you always pay them up front. The
Yeah.
only thing is that I've heard of royalty shares like with audiobooks. Like there are people like
Hmm.
ACX are like, we'll do a royalty share. So,
Yeah.
fortunately you just have to use out audio that way.
Yeah, I know I'm looking into audio because I've had a lot of people requesting it. So I'm kind of, it's very confusing to me. So I'm trying to figure it all
Check
out
out
myself.
ACX. Like they have a website.
ACX?
Yeah,
Okay.
ACX, and like you just pitch to them, and like they basically have a Walton board, and they put it up, and they're like, "Who would like to do the audio version?" And like you either pay them up front or do a royalty share, and that's what
Yeah.
I've done because I don't have Elon Musk money, so I'm like
Yeah. And
royalty
yeah.
share, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or start saving now. At least if you figure out how much it's going to be, and then just add however much for inflation by the time you've saved up. Yeah.
Right. Well, and the best people what they'll do is they'll do a little bit of like a preview, so you can see if you like their tone, their voice, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's it. You do like a audition almost, eh?
yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But all right. So thank you very much for doing this. Do you have anything else you want to throw out there for the search sphere? For you're like check this out. I'm really into this.
Well, yeah, all I can say is that I am working on other projects, as well as my fifth book in the series, but y'all have to follow me to find out more.
Okay. All right. So on that cryptic note, we'll end it. Like I said, thank you very much for doing this.
Please like and subscribe before he kills again.